Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 2 versus 2 on loop, and I'm going to be playing with the 6th Motostrelki. This is the new division that was added in the latest update, and this game really shows off pretty much all it has to offer, so that's why I wanted to share it with you guys today. We're also going to be able to touch on some of the other changes that occurred in the latest patch, including the introduction of the new E-War Raven that was added to the 8th Infantry, since Endymion is playing that as well. Also, just a heads up, if you didn't know, but the Army General Co-op and Versus mode is now available in the game, so if you've been waiting to play it with a friend, now is the time to do so. But let's go ahead and focus on what's happening in the game here. So we're starting off with a ton of these Mi-8Ts. I had in my deck 4 squads of Luftsturmjäger and 4 squads of Luftsturmjäger with Metis. And I've decided to bring them in all at the start so that we can get a bit of a head start on the map. Using the helicopters from the very beginning does allow you in longer maps to get an advantage, even over forward deployment. You can see the Spetsgruppe arriving. They get the advanced deployment of Special Forces, and they're arriving just about the same time as the Mi-8s on this map. So the Luftsturmjäger able to get into position. I've got the Luftsturmjäger with the RPGs for close range. Luftsturmjäger with the Metis going to be sitting on the edge of the town for long range. Also in the middle, I've got a Spetsgruppe going in with a couple of Mi-8s, and you can see in this case the Mi-8s actually beat the Spetsgruppe into position. And that's going to give me a little bit of false sense of security as those come around the corner and get popped by the Rangers there that have already managed to get into position. So the Mi-8 is going to be heading back to be sold. They do not have any armament on them, but they are worth 45 points apiece. So we are going to be looking to make sure we get a refund there. Bradley getting picked off by the Luftsturmjäger. Very nice indeed. And the M13s of ND are coming in, but they are not being micro because ND is over here with his A10 Thunderbolt and his Raven, the E-War Raven. Now the way that the E-War Raven works is there's a radius, and within that radius, radar-based AA has its accuracy reduced by 20%. Now Ravens, they already have 60% base ECM. If I zoom out, you'll see the big circle, there it is. So the way that you're supposed to use these is you bring them in with your ground attack aircraft, and whilst your ground attack aircraft are hitting the targets you need, you can cover them with that circle and, well, cover the enemy AA with that circle, and then they're going to have less chance to hit your aircraft. The other cool thing about that Raven is it does have the ability to spot radar-based AA as well. So it will actually reveal the location of the AA. Now, since we managed to get off to a pretty good start here, Taki annihilated the enemy Rangers here. The Luftsturmjäger actually performed incredibly well. They do have both shock and Special Forces trait with 8 guns. It's pretty good. I'm surprised how badly the Rangers performed though, as the Rangers themselves are also Special Forces and shock. But I think it mainly came down to the extra fire support from here, from Taki. So he's brought some Mochas and BTR, the Pioneers with the flamethrower, and he's got the SPW-70s. Now the nice thing about these SPW-70s is they do have the KPVT, which actually causes a lot of damage to enemy infantry, and it's something that a lot of people sleep on. A lot of people just let these get killed very easily, when ideally you want to take full advantage of the 1,400 meter range that the KBVT has. Meanwhile, on the top side, the A10 Thunderbolt getting the better of Taki as the E-War Raven continues to float about here. It will not affect the Iglas because they are not radar, but the Iglas themselves will have a hard time trying to hit the Raven because it only has 60% accuracy. Or 60% ECM, sorry. The Mi-2 US adder. This is a new unit added to the 6th. It's an Mi-2 with 4 PKTs mounted on it. And this was a great chance for me to try it out against this LRS squad, and it seemed to work pretty well. And that's because the LRS infantry weapons only have like 425 meter range against helicopter there, 525 with the M249, and the M14 snipers only 700 meters, whilst the MI2 US has the 1025 meter range against ground targets. So you can actually discover and outrange enemy recon squads on the ground with that helicopter. So it actually comes in pretty handy. Now it's easy to be shot down by enemy aircraft, but in this case did not happen on the left hand side. So Luftsturmjäger still trying to get the better of enemy squads there. On the left hand side, Ravens coming over, going to be covering the F-16 as it comes in to take out my MA-8. This is the new MI-8, the MI-8 Escordne. It does have some infrared missiles. I was able to land the MI2 because I was worried that the F-16 would come back around to try and shoot it down, which it did. We managed to hit the F-16 a couple times with the Iglas, but not enough to take it out the sky. So I'm going to be covering off the left-hand side now with the BRM anyway, so we can see things on the ground. I've also opted to bring in the MI2 URNs. Now these are another new addition in the game with the 6th Motostrelki. They are MI2s equipped with 57mm rockets and the 23mm autocannon. Now they are actually very nice. It's kind of like having a Gazelle cannon with the extra rockets on top. It's like the mixture of both the Gazelle rocket and the Gazelle cannon, both in one on an MI2, which is really, really handy and can really deal some swift DPS against enemy infantry. So on the right hand side, now investing in a MiG-21. A-10 though does get shot down by the Strela 10Ms of Turkey. And my infrared missile there from the MiG-21 going to be struggling to hit the Raven. This MiG-21, it only has 50% accuracy. And if the Raven has 60% ECM, it's going to have a very low chance of hitting. Because the way that ECM works is it's multiplicative, so it will reduce the 50% by 60%. So it's going to be more like 20% accuracy at that point. Right, MI2 URNs trying to get into position here as I'm moving forwards the Luftsturmjägers. Since I saw there was some extra infantry moved into this middle sector, I'm going to be trying to cover the infantry here, but the Humvees retreating on the right hand side are going to soak some of these rockets. Now there is an argument to be made that you should probably turn off the 57mm rockets so they don't accidentally fire at transports like that, but it is very, well, it's a lot of micro, let's just put it that way. Now we got A-10 coming in, and A-10s, they make short work of low health helicopters. So both my MI2 US and the MI2 URN going down. I'm going to be landing the rest of them. This MI2 going to be trying to finish off the airborne fire team there at least, and that's a good kill. And the nice thing about killing that fire team is it almost pays off the MI2. So like a single infantry kill almost did the job. On the backside here you might have seen some missiles flying around. That's because I brought in the MiG-31B, which is now exclusive to the 6th Motostrelki. It used to be available in the 79th, I believe, but it was actually removed from the 79th and put in the 6th Motostrelki due to the 6th being closer to where the MiGs would be flying around historically. Yeah, my line of MI2 URNs still able to cause issues, and my Luftsturmjäger, well, they're still advancing into the enemy tree line here to try and push out the leader in the center sector, because so far the point's pretty close. Blue side on 69 and we are on 66. We just about find the leader there as it tries to do a runner. We're also going to be finding this infantry, and as I said, this is a 50-point squad. So airborne fire team 50 points, MI2 50 points. So if I can kill the airborne fire team, pays off one of my helicopters. That's why these are so good, because they are very, very cost efficient at the moment. They might get nerfed in the future, but for now, yeah, very, very good. Now we get to introduce you to another of the new units available in the 6th. That is the Gaiatzend. Here it is in all its glory. Looking beautiful on this map. Look at that. Gorgeous. I've actually done another thing that's been introduced in the new patch. This version of Loop is using the evening ambience. The ambient setting was a little bit bugged before, but they fixed it. So now it's a lot easier to play the maps with like different lighting settings. And I'm a big fan of playing a lot of the maps on the night setting because it makes projectiles and stuff and missiles look really, really cool. Nice kill there for the MiG-23 as it comes over and takes down an F-16. Now going in for the A-10. Not going to be able to land the infrared missiles. I should ideally be bringing in my MiG-31 at this point, but because I was focused in the middle here against ND's attacks and cleaning up the center sector, I wasn't able to help just yet. But ND's still managing to get the better of Taki's AA for the time being. Because both Frodo and ND are using seed aircraft and the E-War Raven and so on, is making it very, very difficult here for Taki to deal with these aircraft. Now my MiG-31's coming in. Got the second one available. I did manage to snipe the A-10, but all of their missiles are used up, so time to evacuate. Absolutely awesome aircraft. Some artillery's flying in from the left-hand side, as you can see. The really cool thing about this artillery, I didn't mention it just yet, is that they have a salvo length of 6 and a rate of fire of 5. So they basically fire 6 rounds and then they reload, and then you can fire another 6 rounds. Now in sort of long term since this game was played, I found that they don't do as much damage as I would like them to do, but still a decent artillery piece, particularly with corrected shot. Andy here bringing in the Black Hawk, dropping off the Rangers in line of sight of 2 of my Luftsturmjäger. And the Luftsturmjäger doing a fine job. Now going to be bringing in another of the new units, the L-39. Unfortunately, these L-39s, they only have 6 health. So whilst they do have a decent payload, a relatively nice payload actually, of the 500 kilogram bombs, they do get shot down very quickly, especially by enemy AA, which I decided to fly straight over, but I took them with me, so that's okay. Yeah, those L-39s, they are very cheap. I think they're like 80 points. Killing a Stinger, that's a 60-point squad, so it's not a terrible trade, and it basically allows for us to fly around with our planes in the future less impeded, which is nice. So still, ND taking advantage of Taki on the right-hand side using all of this aircraft. I'm waiting, of course, for my MiG-31s to reload so that I can bring them in and deal more damage to Endymion's aircraft. But meanwhile, we are now ticking up. Taki managed to get a BMP-1 into the right-hand side here. And on the left, we've managed to obviously fully capture that sector. Now, the Cub traded for one of the Wild Weasels. Not too bad. Now my MiG-31's coming in, looking to try and finish off the E-War Raven. And we do manage to snipe it there on the backside with one of those missiles. Beautiful stuff. It just looks so cool when they're flying in formation like this. Alright, so time for Taki to continue his pushes on this right-hand side with a lot of the enemy aircraft dispatched. M3A1 does get picked off by the Metis launcher. The Metis launcher here with 17 penetration is really good against enemy Bradleys. Like, Bradleys go down very, very easily to them. You might also notice that my MiG-21 just came in, and I'm using them to cluster strike infantry. Now, cluster in this game is generally an anti-infantry, or sorry, anti-tank weapon. But in this game, it does do a little bit of damage to infantry. And because the payload of the MiG-21 is quite substantial, with two 500-kilogram bombs and two 250-kilogram bombs, it actually allows you to use them pretty effectively as anti-infantry, whilst also being able to one-pass heavy tanks like the M1A1HA. But the A-10 coming in here and strafing my Luftsturmjäger is definitely going to stop me from engaging these mechanized rifles that are heading our way. One of the scary things about the 8th Infantry is they do have some pretty chunky squads. Also got the AH-1F Cobra, which did manage to finish off the Luftsturmjäger on the far side. My MiG-21 coming in there. Managed to get an infrared missile onto the AH-1F Cobra, so was able to shoot that down. A-10 gets enough of a burst in order to get the kill back, though. So mechanized rifles out in the open versus my Luftsturm in cover. We should be able to win that engagement over time. You'll also notice that the MiG-31s are on the field once again, allowing me to take down another of the A-10s. But the Cobra here, these get so much value. 130 points, able to pick off two of my infantry squads. Bear in mind, these are 70 points and 55 points respectively. So the AH-1F Cobra, by killing two infantry squads, pays itself off. The thing is with these rocket helicopters, sometimes they can be so cost efficient. And you'll see these sorts of Cobras used a lot in 1v1 because of that. Not so much a problem in team games because there's generally a lot more AA. You can see that Taki is making use of the Iglas here to shoot down those Cobras just as efficiently. You know, if you think these are 35 points apiece, if they're killing a 130-point Cobra, that's good value. But the Raven's still hanging about. Taki, however, still going to be going in for the AH-1F Cobra. Does manage to kill one of them. Still trying to finish off the Raven, but unfortunately, man-pads on the opposing side able to get the job done. Now, I did bring up a Kraz. The intention with this supply vehicle was to resupply the Luftsturmjäger, but since they all got finished off by the Cobras, not so much a need for those. I can, of course, help resupply Taki here, but he does have his own Ural in position already. Once again, bringing in the MiG-21s to bomb enemy infantry. The TOW-2 going down there, nice kill, and also taking out the infantry in the building here. So that's really, really nice for us. Will help Taki continue to try and make ground on the right-hand side. MI2, meanwhile, going to be looking to help finish off some of the mechanized rifles. Also, the 23mm, I believe, can be used against enemy helicopters. And it does have a decent amount of accuracy, so TOW Cobra could be a target. The trouble is, the TOW Cobra also has its 20mm chain gun, which is almost just as good at taking on enemy helicopters. And since I have enemy, or lower health, sorry, the Cobra would get the better of us in this case. I'm just going to try and let Taki's Iglas get the job done, although they're not really hitting the mark just yet. I'm now bringing up a couple more Iglas of my own and another MI2. You see, I've also invested in more Iglas on the left-hand side. I want to make sure that this is secure because we haven't really been paying attention to that left-hand side, so there could have been a chance that maybe Andy or Frodo decides to push in here. But, yeah, just kind of rearranging my forces to make sure that they are in a good position. because I've got 2 Luftsturmjäger on the edge with the Metis. I've got another Luftsturmjäger Metis here with the Recon, so the Recon's going to spot the targets for the Luftsturm. And then I've got the Luftsturm with the RPG a little bit further back, and then the line of Igloos for if anything flies over this left-hand side, it will most likely get shot down with the amount of Igloos that I'm investing in. Now, another thing that I need to note in this game, you might notice it's a little bit slower than usual. And that's because in the latest patch, they have added a new setting called Command and Control, which works a lot like Broken Arrow's income system, whereby the more units you have on the map, the less income that you have. So what that does is it really sort of slows down the game by stopping people snowballing so much. But once again, we get to watch the MiG-31s come in and deny the airspace here. So those MiG-31s do count towards that, and so, you know, these are 265 points apiece. I've also got 2 artillery pieces back here, which are both 260 points each, and that's lowering my overall income that I would otherwise be able to use in this game. Now, just like in Broken Arrow, if you end up losing a lot of your frontline forces and you end up just having a lot of support units like artillery and aircraft, then you kind of get stuck with less units on the front line and a lot of units in your back line. And unfortunately in WARNO, you can't like sell every unit, right? So I can't tell their Gaiatsins to just leave so that I can get the income back. Instead, you just kind of have to manage that throughout the game. And the MiG-21 coming in again with the cluster, and you'll see that that does a significant amount of damage to those chunky infantry squads. MiG-21s, they only have 8 HP, so I only need either a big missile or 2 small missiles to shoot them down. I do end up losing both of them. A little bit unfortunate, but at least Taki's managed to get the T-72 in on the left-hand side. We have prevented the infantry threat on this side of the river. So we're now getting into a very, very nice position. And since a lot of the seed aircraft have been taken down, or at least fended off for the time being, by my MiG-31s, it's time for me to bring in the book and try and make good use of that. This is a really, really nice vehicle. It has 4 9HE missiles, which have 6,000 meter range. I really like how you can see which missiles have been fired on the back there as it moves up into position. F-16 goes down immediately. The combination of the MiG-31s plus the book making short work of them. A-10 is going to be able to get away with it though, and the MiG-31 takes a missile on the way out, so that's going to take a bit longer to recover. The book's also out of ammo, so we're now reliant on the Igla as the A-10 comes in. But the Iglas on the right hand side do end up getting the job done. Taki's Cubs here are also out of ammunition. I'm now bringing up a Ural to at least resupply my own, and maybe resupply his as well, if I have the time. So there, I was just strafing the ground. I believe when I was streaming, I was just testing something with that to see how the MiG-21 gun sounded, because they have updated more of the sounds in the latest patch. And as you can probably tell just from my commentary throughout this game, there's been a lot added. So if you want to, check out all the changes, make sure you go to the Steam page, the community hub. All of the changes are listed there in their community posts. So definitely worth having a read. And just a reminder again, if you do want to check out Army General, it now has versus and co-op game mode, so you can play it with a friend, which is really, really cool. And I'm glad that they finally managed to get that into the game, because it's something that I know a lot of people enjoyed in Steel Division 2. So BMP 1PG going down to the enemy HGems up on the ridge here. Gonna have to be careful about that. Raven floating around once again. I feel like these Ravens, they are very useful, particularly in combination, as you saw, with the A10s early on. But the big problem with those Ravens is they do take up slots in your air tab that you might otherwise just want to use for something else. I think the scariest combination would be in like a 2v2 competitive game where one player's using Strike Eagles and another player's using the Ravens to cover them. That would be absolutely gross in a competitive tournament. Book here, able to pop a missile into the Raven. Doesn't manage to shoot it down, unfortunately. But still managed to force it back. So it gets rid of that bonus. Also, bear in mind that the book, if it's outside of the circle, won't be debuffed by the E-War trait. So it will still have its maximum accuracy. The Raven, of course, still has its ECM, but it won't have the minus 20% extra malice that it gets from being in the circle there. Nice kill by Taki, shooting down the Apache on the right-hand side. And ND, he is still advancing on us with more mechanized rifles in the center. I will have to get some more infantry up here. At the moment, just holding the front line with the Volpos. These Volpos really not as good as they used to be. I've since taken them out of my deck because without the AT weapon, they're just so lackluster. Now the SBW PSH, it's okay. Like this thing kind of makes up for the crap infantry that it comes with, but honestly, you might as well just be bringing more Motostrelki in that case. T64BV now joining us on the field. The T64 is also now exclusive to the 6th Motostrelki. They were removed from the game previously. They've now been added back in as part of the 6th. It's good to see them back. They are very cool models with all of their explosive reactive armor on them. F111F coming in with cluster there to do a bit of damage to Taki's infantry. That sort of cluster, as you can see, it's a lot less effective against infantry because the cluster rounds are a lot more spread out. Whereas because the MiG dives, that's why its cluster can be so effective against infantry, because all of those bombs, and especially like the higher weight class bombs of the 500 kilogram bombs, they just do a ton of damage. But the mechanized rifles here are going to get the better of my Motostrelki, unfortunately. The SBW PSH, kind of vulnerable to the Dragon 2s of these mechanized rifle squads. And here the BMP-1P, it's struggling to help out because the fire team here has the AT-4 and the Dragon has the mechanized rifle has the Dragon 2. So what this means is at range the BMP-2 can be hit, or the BMP can be hit by the Dragon, and at close range the AT-4 can get the kill, so that's not ideal. Anyway, artillery is going to be coming in here from both myself with the Gayadzint and also the 152mm of Taki. That's going to certainly allow us to try and finish off some of these infantry squads. I'm just kind of moving that up and down the slope here to try and get shots on target. The SBW PSH the whole time has been providing great fire support, as you can see. So I'm still kind of conflicted whether or not it's worth bringing in the Volpos just for the SBW PSH, like cheap PSH here. But yeah, I think the use of the BMP is generally better. Fortunately, the T64 BV there taking another hit that takes it down to low cohesion and forced it to rout, so no more fire support for the time being. And these Dragon teams causing me issues. So the new Mi-8 has returned once again with its 80mm rockets and the two 240mm. And these two 240mm rockets, I've noticed they're just not very accurate at all. They tend to fly off in random directions, which is unfortunate. But we managed to shoot down the Kiowa there with the Iglas. My Mi-8 not really able to hold its position as it gets taken down by enemy manpads. So the crowd's going to be moving over to the T-64 to get that fixed up. The Motostrelki going to be doing a runner as well. I'm going to try and get them back to that supply. Meanwhile, the Eugen coming in, smashing the backside of the sector with those rockets. Try and get some extra damage in. But we have now fully secured the right-hand side. Taki has persevered. And now we are contesting in the center. The Earl here able to just avoid getting popped by the Dragon Squad. Quite an important thing that stays alive so that he can replenish the Pioneers and the Motostrelki here. And the T-64, now it's finished routing, is heading back to the Kraz. The Motostrelki also going to be heading back there to get topped off with new men. And 2 more Motostrelki on the way. So yeah, the pace of this game, I don't know, like, I kind of feel like the pace is nice. But I think also it does kind of lead to situations where you can't finish the game as quickly as you would like. Because whilst like Frodo and Andy have put up a good fight, we don't really have the sort of resources to finish the job now that we've secured the right hand side, because a lot of the initial engagements came down to the aircraft destroying Taki on the right hand side. But since we've dealt with the a lot of the air threat, like with the MiG-31s ready to go here, you can see that we've managed to make a lot more ground against the airborne division and this 8th Infantry Division, which don't have so much on the ground to offer. But once again, the Gaiatsins firing away. Going to be able to hit the mechanized rifles pretty hard there. Taking out the building is the most important part there, because when they're not in cover, they're going to take a lot more damage. But you'll see like how close this artillery is landing and how little damage it does. Only direct hits really get the job done. Now thankfully, because you're firing 6 rounds, you've got a lot more chance to get shots on target. But ultimately, it does make things kind of awkward sometimes when you don't quite get the kill because not enough rounds landed exactly where you targeted it. I think maybe the way to use these would be to have them a bit closer and then have the corrected shot to make sure that those 6 shots all land on target. And then maybe the thing would be a lot more effective. But this was I believe the first game that I was using them. Anyway, the book so far has been absolutely fantastic here. Cub's going to help finish off the F-111F there. This thing has been very, very handy. I even used it to shoot down the Kiowa because it does have a 3,000 meter range against helicopters. Yeah, going back to the income discussion, I think like the pace of the base game is really nice, especially in like smaller team games like 1v1, 2v2. I think having normal income is much better than using the command control that we have going on here. But in larger games like 10v10, I think the command and control could really become a standard for the game mode, because it kind of acts as a little bit of a comeback mechanic. And in 10v10s that may be significantly unbalanced, it will allow people to have a bit more fun. And ultimately, 10v10 is all about just having fun. That's why I enjoy doing it with people so much on stream. And if you would like to come along and get involved in games like this, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, or 10v10s, I do play on stream every Wednesday. It's called WARNO Wednesday, of course. F-16 getting shot down by the book. The book just free firing at the moment, doing a great job. Now, MiG-31's coming in. How not to use MiG-31s, guys. They are not dogfighters. Getting that close to the Eagles was a very big mistake on my part. So, lose both my MiG-31s. It's not so much of a problem now because we've already taken out a lot of the ground attack aircraft, but if that were to happen earlier on, that would have been pretty devastating. But yeah, don't use the MiG-31s as dogfighters. Just keep them at the back of the map. They have massive range on their missiles, so make good use of it. T-64 BV drifting up to try and get the better of the M1A1. Whilst this may be an infantry division, the 8th does get some relatively decent tanks, just in small numbers. Same with us, really, with the 6th Motostrelki. Mostly an infantry division, but it does have a decent contingent of T-64 BVs. And whilst BVs aren't exactly the best tanks in the world, you know, 16 front armor, 19 penetration, 11 health, the HGM can certainly carry it at a distance against more medium armor, particularly against things like French armor and German armor, because German armor and French armor will take a lot of damage from these HGMs, whereas American armor is generally significantly better in terms of actual armor value, at least. I'm going to try and save my Mudschützen here so they don't burn in the flames left over from the flash launchers. But so far so good, as ND's trying to push back into us, but not managing to make much ground. And the T-64 getting plenty of fire support down. T-72 on this side of the river, firing across. Getting some extra DPS down. And we're slowly but surely now counting towards victory. Almost reaching 1,900 points. Range is getting cleaned up on the right hand side by the flames there. More of my own Mudschützen arriving. We got the Eugen coming in. The M1A1 is damaged on this position, so we're hoping to get one of those rockets on target in order to blow that up. It's always awesome watching the rockets come in, smashing that area to pieces, taking out the M1 on the right hand side while we're at it. The Hermit trying to do a run, and that also going up in flames for the supply. And Mudschützen going to be finishing off the airborne engineers. So, getting some very, very efficient engagements now as we continue to push forwards on the ground. Now that the airplanes have been dealt with, we have complete domination on the ground. I find it just really cool how there's like a wreck here of one of the helicopters as we continue to push onwards. Looking to just try and get rid of that command vehicle once and for all as we finally approach the 2,000 points. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this look at the 6th Mudschützen, or sorry, the 6th Motostrelki, because I felt like this was a really fantastic game for talking about all of the different things that this division has to offer. I think it's quite a versatile division, and we also got, of course, to see the Raven at work. So yeah, Andy making great use of that early on, but we ended up, in the end, getting the better of his aircraft with the MiG-31s. And MiG-31s and other air superiority aircraft are the perfect way to counter those sorts of air plays, particularly with the Ravens, because they do take up a lot of slots in the air tab. 5,505 kills, 2,640 losses. In the end, the Luftsturm Jäger actually performed a lot better than I expected them to. They're always going to do well against the small teams like fire teams, but when they were fighting against the Rangers, I was surprised how much damage they were dealing. The MI2 is also fantastic. You can see that those got loads of value for me, even if they do go down pretty quickly. The L39, this one actually managed to bomb 2 Stingers and a fire team, and this one killed the Avenger. So those two actually paid themselves off really well in the end, even though they were basically suicide bombers. We got the Gyatsins. You can see that those actually didn't do that well, and that's where I was talking about these things not really having great accuracy. So I need to kind of try these more and see how they perform at closer ranges before kind of like writing them off completely. But the MiG-21, all infantry kills. These cluster aircraft are very good at killing infantry, surprisingly. So do bear that in mind. They aren't intended for the role of killing infantry. They are technically anti-armor. But in this case, because the concentration of their bombs is so tight, they manage to do severe amounts of damage with those bombs. The book really coming into its own later on. T-64 winning against the M1. We did finish off the Abrams with the Eugen, so that kind of paid itself off. And yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this look at the 6th Motostrelki. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.